The 10 Bodhisattva practices are not just spiritual guidelines, they represent a profound and essential pathway towards the attainment of enlightenment. Imagine that. These practices are like seeds that, when nurtured, blossom into the qualities needed to truly become a bodhisattva, a being devoted to achieving Buddhahood for the benefit of all sentient beings. Isn't that a beautiful purpose? His Holiness the Dalai Lama often speaks about these 10 practices, urging us to see them not as abstract ideals but as living, breathing approaches to transform both our minds and hearts. Think about it. What if every action you took was a step towards becoming a beacon of compassion, not just for yourself but for everyone around you? Below, I explore each of these 10 practices, not just their significance but also how they interconnect to help us realize the ultimate goal of liberation for all beings. Generosity, Dana. Generosity is where it all begins. It's about giving without expecting anything in return, an act that frees us from attachment and opens our hearts. When we give, whether it's material items, wisdom, or simply comfort, we bridge the gap between ourselves and others. Can you imagine how beautiful the world would be if everyone gave freely, from a place of love and compassion? The Dalai Lama reminds us that true generosity isn't just about material wealth. It's about sharing our time, our kindness, and our understanding. When we give with purity and without expectation, we not only reduce our own selfish tendencies but also create powerful bonds with others, a sense of unity that brings us closer to enlightenment. Isn't that something worth striving for? Generosity also teaches us the value of letting go. In a world where attachment to material possessions, relationships, and even ideas can create suffering, the practice of giving helps us release our grip. This release is not just about material things, it's also about letting go of ego, pride, and the need for recognition. When we give freely, we learn to dissolve the boundaries that separate us from others, creating a space where true compassion can flourish. Imagine a world where generosity was the norm. Where everyone, regardless of their own circumstances, found ways to uplift those around them. This kind of society wouldn't just be prosperous in a material sense, it would be rich in love, connection, and mutual support. Generosity, therefore, is not just an individual practice, it's the foundation of a compassionate community, a world where everyone has what they need to thrive. Morality, Sila. Morality is more than just following rules, it's about aligning our actions, words, and thoughts with compassion. It's about consciously choosing not to harm others and striving to live in a way that benefits those around us. But here's a question: what if morality were viewed not as a restriction, but as a profound expression of love for all beings? His Holiness often points out that ethical conduct is the foundation upon which all spiritual progress rests. When we act with integrity, we create trust, both in ourselves and in others. This trust becomes the bedrock for spiritual growth, allowing us to cultivate a peaceful, focused mind. Morality, therefore, is about living in harmony with the world, minimizing harm, and maximizing love. The practice of morality requires mindfulness and a deep awareness of the impact of our actions. Every choice we make has the potential to create suffering or to bring about happiness. By choosing to act ethically, we not only prevent harm but also create the conditions for positive transformation, in ourselves and in others. Morality is about seeing the interconnectedness of all beings and understanding that our happiness is inextricably linked to the well-being of others. Morality also provides a sense of inner peace. When we live in accordance with our values, we reduce the inner conflict that arises from acting against our own conscience. This peace of mind is essential for deep meditation and spiritual insight. It's difficult to find true stillness when we are burdened by guilt or regret. By practicing morality, we create a solid foundation upon which we can build a life of spiritual fulfillment and joy. Patience, Thai. Patience is often seen as a virtue, but it's more than that, it's the power to face adversity with an open heart. It's about embracing the imperfections of life and seeing challenges as opportunities for growth rather than obstacles to avoid. How often do we find ourselves losing patience over small things? What if we saw each moment of frustration as a chance to deepen our compassion? The Dalai Lama teaches that patience is the antidote to anger, one of the most destructive emotions. By cultivating patience, we learn to accept suffering without resentment, understanding that it is a part of life. Imagine the strength that comes from this acceptance, the ability to respond to hardship with grace and compassion rather than anger. That's the kind of resilience that transforms us. Patience is not passive, it is an active practice of love and understanding. When we are patient, we choose to stay present with our discomfort rather than reacting impulsively. This presence allows us to see the situation more clearly and to respond in a way that is beneficial rather than harmful. Patience also helps us to cultivate empathy, as we begin to understand that everyone is struggling in their own way. By being patient with others, we create a space where healing and connection can occur. Think about the moments in your life when someone showed you patience. How did it feel to be accepted, even when you were struggling or making mistakes? That feeling of being seen and loved, despite your imperfections, is what patience offers to others. It's a powerful gift that can transform relationships and bring about deep healing. By practicing patience, we not only transform our own hearts but also create a more compassionate world. Diligence, virya. Diligence is the joyful effort we put into walking the path. It's not about rigid discipline or forcing ourselves to practice. It's about finding joy in the journey itself. What keeps you motivated? What if every moment of practice, every effort made, was seen as a step closer to enlightenment for all beings? His Holiness emphasizes the importance of maintaining enthusiasm, even when challenges arise. Diligence is what keeps the flame of our spiritual aspirations burning. It's about recognizing the preciousness of the opportunity to practice and the impact it has on our own growth and the world around us. True diligence, then, is fueled by love, for ourselves and for all beings. Diligence requires perseverance, especially when the path becomes difficult. There will be times when we feel discouraged, when progress seems slow, or when the obstacles seem insurmountable. It's in these moments that diligence becomes most important. By cultivating a sense of joy in our practice, we can overcome the tendency to give up. We can learn to see challenges not as setbacks but as opportunities to strengthen our commitment and deepen our understanding. Diligence also means being consistent in our practice. It's easy to be enthusiastic at the beginning of a new endeavor, but true transformation requires sustained effort over time. By showing up day after day, even when we don't feel like it, we create the conditions for real growth. Diligence is about trusting the process, knowing that every effort we make, no matter how small, contributes to our spiritual awakening and to the well-being of all beings. Meditative concentration, dhyana. Meditation is the key to calming the mind and seeing reality as it truly is. It's a practice that allows us to cut through the distractions and illusions of daily life. Have you ever experienced a moment of complete clarity, where everything just made sense? That's the power of meditative concentration. It brings us face to face with the true nature of our minds. By cultivating both calmness, shamatha, and insight, vipassana, we gain a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of all beings. The Dalai Lama often describes meditation as a journey inward that ultimately helps us reach outwards, to connect more deeply with others through compassion and wisdom. Meditation is not just about sitting quietly, it's about transforming the way we see the world. Through meditation, we learn to observe our thoughts and emotions without becoming attached to them. We begin to see that our thoughts are not who we are, they are simply passing phenomena. This realization brings a sense of freedom, as we no longer feel controlled by our emotions or reactive patterns. Meditative concentration also helps us to cultivate a sense of presence. In our busy lives, it's easy to get caught up in the past or the future, missing the beauty of the present moment. Through meditation, we learn to bring our attention fully to whatever we are doing, whether it's washing the dishes, talking to a friend, or simply breathing. This presence allows us to experience life more fully and to connect more deeply with others. Wisdom, prajna. Wisdom is not just about acquiring knowledge, it's about seeing the true nature of reality, understanding the emptiness and interdependence of all things. Imagine looking at the world without delusion, without ego, seeing everything as it really is. Wouldn't that change everything? The Dalai Lama teaches that wisdom goes hand in hand with compassion. By understanding the true nature of existence, we realize the futility of ego-driven pursuits and the importance of helping others. Wisdom allows us to act skillfully, always aiming to reduce suffering and bring benefit to all beings. Wisdom is about seeing beyond the surface of things. It's about understanding that what we perceive is not the full picture, that there is a deeper reality beneath our experiences. This understanding helps us to let go of attachment and aversion, as we see that the things we cling to are ultimately empty of inherent existence. Wisdom, therefore, is not cold or detached, it is deeply compassionate, as it allows us to see the suffering of others and to respond with love. The practice of wisdom also involves questioning our assumptions and beliefs. We all carry preconceived notions about ourselves, others, and the world. By examining these beliefs and testing them against our direct experience, we can begin to see where we are holding on to delusion. Wisdom is about being open to the truth, even when it challenges our deeply held views. It's about being willing to change, to grow, and to see the world in a new way. Skillful means, upaya. Skillful means is about being adaptable, understanding that each being has unique needs and finding the best way to help them. It's about being flexible, responsive, and creative. How can we truly help others if we are rigid in our approach? His Holiness often speaks about the importance of empathy and understanding. Skillful means requires us to put ourselves in others' shoes and respond in ways that will truly benefit them. It's a practice of deep listening and compassionate action, tailored to the unique situations of those around us. Skillful means is about meeting people where they are. We all have different capacities, backgrounds, and needs. What works for one person may not work for another. By being attentive and open, we can find the most effective way to support others on their journey. This requires a deep sense of empathy and a willingness to let go of our own agenda in order to serve the needs of others. Skillful means also involves creativity. Sometimes, the most compassionate response is not the most obvious one. By thinking outside the box and being willing to try new approaches, we can find ways to help that are truly effective. This creativity is fueled by our deep commitment to the well-being of others. When we are motivated by love, we become willing to do whatever it takes to alleviate suffering, even if it means stepping outside of our comfort zone. Aspiration, pradna. Aspiration is about making vows, setting a powerful intention to attain enlightenment for the benefit of all beings. It's about having a clear vision of where we want to go and why. What drives you? What would you give to see all beings free from suffering? The Dalai Lama emphasizes that our intentions shape our reality. By making strong aspirations, we align our hearts and minds with the Bodhisattva path, creating positive momentum. These vows become our guiding star, helping us stay focused and inspired, even when the path is challenging. Aspiration is the fuel that keeps us going. It's the deep longing to be of service, to make a difference, to contribute to the happiness of all beings. This longing gives our practice meaning and direction. Without aspiration, it's easy to become complacent or to lose sight of why we are practicing in the first place. By continually renewing our vows and reminding ourselves of our highest intentions, we keep our hearts and minds aligned with the path of compassion. Aspiration also involves a sense of humility. We recognize that we are not yet fully awakened, but we aspire to be. We see our own limitations, but we do not let them discourage us. Instead, we use them as motivation to keep going, to keep striving, to keep growing. Aspiration is about believing in our potential for enlightenment and dedicating ourselves to realizing that potential for the benefit of all beings. Power, Bala. Power, in this context, is the inner strength that comes from deep spiritual practice. It's not about dominance, it's about the unshakable commitment to compassion and altruism. What does true power look like to you? Is it the ability to control others, or is it the strength to remain compassionate in the face of adversity? The Dalai Lama teaches that true power is the power to transform oneself and inspire others. It is the power of love, resilience, and unwavering dedication to the well-being of all beings. This kind of power is rooted in humility and deep understanding, a power that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. True power comes from within. It is the strength to remain true to our values, even when it is difficult. It is the courage to face our own fears and limitations, and the determination to keep going, even when the path is challenging. This inner power is not about force or control, it is about the quiet confidence that comes from knowing who we are and what we stand for. Power also involves the ability to inspire others. When we are deeply committed to our own practice, when we embody the qualities of compassion, wisdom, and integrity, we naturally inspire those around us. This kind of power is not about coercion or manipulation, it is about being a living example of what is possible. By cultivating our own inner strength, we become a source of inspiration and support for others on their journey. Knowledge, jnana. Finally, knowledge is the culmination of all these practices, a deep, experiential understanding of the nature of reality. It's the wisdom that allows the Bodhisattva to see clearly and act compassionately. Can you imagine what it would be like to see the world without illusion, to understand karma, and to respond to every situation with perfect skill and compassion? The Dalai Lama describes this knowledge as the ultimate fruit of the Bodhisattva path. It's not just intellectual, it's a lived experience of interconnectedness, a profound realization that leads to true liberation. This knowledge allows the Bodhisattva to act in ways that bring the greatest benefit to all beings. Knowledge is about seeing things as they truly are. It's about understanding the nature of suffering, the causes of suffering, and the path to liberation. This understanding is not theoretical, it is a direct, experiential realization that transforms the way we see the world and the way we live our lives. Knowledge, in this sense, is the culmination of all the other practices. It is the fruit of generosity, morality, patience, diligence, meditative concentration, wisdom, skillful means, aspiration, and power. This knowledge also brings a deep sense of peace. When we see the true nature of reality, we no longer feel the need to struggle or to fight against what is. We understand that everything is interconnected, that all beings are suffering, and that our true purpose is to alleviate that suffering. This understanding brings a sense of clarity and purpose, allowing us to act with compassion and wisdom in every situation. Conclusion. The 10 Bodhisattva practices are more than just steps on a spiritual path, they are a way of living that transforms not only our minds but also the world around us. His Holiness the Dalai Lama reminds us that these practices must be embodied in our daily lives, through generosity, morality, patience, diligence, meditative concentration, wisdom, skillful means, aspiration, power, and knowledge. We cultivate the qualities necessary to bring true and lasting benefit to all beings. Even small steps matter. Each moment of kindness, each effort to practice patience or to meditate, contributes to a world of compassion and wisdom. So, let's ask ourselves, how can we take these practices into our hearts and into our lives? How can we become a source of light and inspiration for others? The path of the Bodhisattva is one of courage, resilience, and boundless love, a journey that ultimately leads to the liberation of all beings. Let's take that journey together. The path of the Bodhisattva is not a solitary one. It is a path of connection, of relationship, of deep engagement with the world. Each of these 10 practices is a way of opening our hearts, of breaking down the barriers that separate us from others, and of cultivating the qualities that will allow us to be of true benefit to all beings. It is a path that requires courage, dedication, and an unwavering commitment to love. As we walk this path, we will inevitably face challenges. There will be times when we feel discouraged, when the suffering of the world feels overwhelming, or when our own limitations seem insurmountable. But it is in these moments that the true power of the Bodhisattva practices becomes evident. These practices give us the strength to keep going, the wisdom to see beyond our own pain, and the compassion to continue serving others, even when it is difficult. The Dalai Lama often speaks about the importance of joy on the spiritual path. Joy is not something that comes from external circumstances, it is something that arises from within, from the deep sense of purpose and connection that comes from living in alignment with our highest values. The Bodhisattva path is a path of joy, because it is a path of love. When we dedicate ourselves to the well-being of others, we find a sense of fulfillment that cannot be found in the pursuit of self-interest. Each of the 10 practices is a doorway into a deeper understanding of ourselves and of the world. Generosity teaches us to let go of attachment and to open our hearts to others. Morality shows us how to live in a way that is aligned with our values. Patience helps us to embrace the challenges of life with grace and compassion. Diligence gives us the energy and enthusiasm to keep going, even when the path is difficult. Meditative concentration allows us to see the true nature of our minds and to cultivate a sense of presence. Wisdom shows us the interconnectedness of all things and helps us to let go of delusion. Skillful means teaches us to be adaptable and creative in our efforts to help others. Aspiration gives us a sense of purpose and direction. Power gives us the inner strength to remain true to our values. And knowledge allows us to see reality as it truly is and to act with compassion and wisdom. The path of the Bodhisattva is a path of transformation. It is a path that asks us to let go of our small, self-centered concerns and to dedicate ourselves to something greater. It is a path that requires us to face our own suffering and the suffering of the world with an open heart. But it is also a path that offers profound joy, deep connection, and a sense of purpose that goes beyond anything the ego could ever offer. So, let us take up the challenge. Let us dedicate ourselves to the path of the Bodhisattva, to the cultivation of generosity, morality, patience, diligence, meditative concentration, wisdom, skillful means, aspiration, power, and knowledge. Let us be a source of light and inspiration for others, a beacon of compassion in a world that so desperately needs it. And let us do so with joy, with love, and with an unwavering commitment to the liberation of all beings. The journey may be long, and the challenges may be great, but the rewards are beyond measure. The path of the Bodhisattva is a path of boundless love, unshakable courage, and limitless compassion. It is a path that leads not only to our own awakening but to the awakening of all beings. And there is no greater purpose, no greater joy, than that. Let's walk this path together, supporting each other, encouraging each other, and reminding each other of the beauty and the purpose of this journey. Let's be bodhisattvas in the world, bringing light where there is darkness, hope where there is despair, and love where there is suffering. Let's take each step with mindfulness, each breath with gratitude, and each moment with the intention to be of benefit to all beings. The path is before us, and the time is now. Let's walk it together, with courage, with love, and with the unshakable determination to bring about the liberation of all beings.